You know when you have this idea for something and you feel like it's almost there, it just needs something else, and so rather than trying to figure out exactly what that something else is, you just keep throwing things at it, whether it's new designs or new ideas or new whatever. I feel like that's exactly what happened with this shoe. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler, and today I'm reviewing the upcoming Air Jordan 1 Craft, aka the Air Jordan 1 Handcrafted. You know, I hate when Nike does this. I hate when they decide to change the name of the shoe right before it releases, or just not call it what people have been calling it for the months leading up to the sneaker, even though Nike is probably the reason they were calling that shoe that name. Case in point, the Air Jordan 1 Craft. Now, I don't know if the shoe was originally called the Handcrafted when it went through the design process at Nike, and maybe that's how we got the name of the shoe, or maybe whoever first leaked this shoe thought it looked like a handcrafted sneaker and called it that. Either way, the name Air Jordan 1 Craft does not seem to fit this shoe as well as Air Jordan 1 Handcrafted does. Actually, to be fair, it also doesn't look handcrafted, it just looks like a multicolored Jordan with a bunch of different materials. Before we dive any deeper into this shoe though, let's first talk about its release. So the Air Jordan 1 Craft releases officially on December 18th for a retail price of $170. Man, December 18th is turning out to be an insane day for sneaker releases. We've got two different Yeezys dropping, you've got the Beluga Reflectives and the basketballs, you've got these dropping, and then you've got like a handful of just regular Nike releases. And most likely none of them will make it to you in time for Christmas if you're buying them for Christmas gifts because of all the shipping delays. I feel like they should have just dropped these shoes like a week earlier. That might have worked out better for them. However, if you do want to give the gift of Air Jordans or maybe even Yeezys, I've made sure to leave an affiliate link to GOAT in the description below. And the reason I recommend GOAT is because they have an instant ship option, which should get these shoes to you probably in like 2 or 3 days. And one other thing I wanted to cover before we actually got into the review itself was this Air Jordan 1 Craft box, because this box actually does look pretty different than really most other Air Jordan 1 boxes. So while the logo design on this box isn't totally new for this release, we saw this on the Air Jordan 1 where you can cut the top off, the actual colors on this box are pretty different. So on one side of the top of the box, you've got some maroons and some oranges, and then on the other side, you've got some greens and some whites. And then interestingly enough, around the sides of the box, you've got this dark sort of mocha brown accented by the orange logo. I would definitely call this box design eclectic, and while I don't love the color choices on this box, I don't think they look bad, and I like the fact that Jordan Brand is doing something different for this release. I love whenever they release special versions of their boxes, just because it makes the release feel more special. Now I understand that there's collectors out there who love just having the black and red Air Jordan 1 boxes because they stack so nicely. Really, I don't mind it unless the box is a different shape. If the box is a different shape, then it gets complicated because you can't really stack it. It becomes a whole big thing. But with a box like this, you get that special touch while still being able to stack your boxes and organize them relatively neatly. As far as the colorway for the Air Jordan 1 Craft, the official colorway is Black Archeo or Archeo Brown. Not sure how to pronounce that, but there you go. But with the box out of the way, let's get back into the sneakers, the reason we're all here. So like the box, I would describe the design of this shoe as eclectic. Not so much handcrafted, but definitely more of a mashup of colors and textures and just materials that maybe shouldn't go together. So according to Nike's website and the official description of this shoe is literally designed to look like it was handmade, which I feel like is kind of ironic because Air Jordan 1s are the farthest thing from handmade in the sense that we think of handmade. This shoe is the epitome of a mass-produced sneaker. While yes, this shoe was probably assembled by hand, the image that Nike is actually trying to stir in your mind is that of an Italian designer sitting at his wooden workbench, sort of cobbling it together by hand with these needles and threads, and that's the farthest thing from how the shoe is actually made. So in that sense, I'm not in love with that sneaker because that story just genuinely feels like a flat-out lie, which is unfortunate. However, I do have to say that the colors that were used on the sneaker and some of the design choices aren't bad, they're just not exactly my thing. So why don't we dive into the bountiful blend as Nike describes it on their website. I'm not even kidding, that's literally how they describe this combination of materials, and find out what makes this sneaker special and what could have been done a little bit better. You know, as I was reading the description of this shoe on the sneakers app, it reminded me a lot of that episode in Seinfeld where Elaine writes for the J. Peterman catalog and writes this ridiculous description for this jacket. It feels like the exact same thing. You really have to read the description of the shoe on the sneakers app. It's a lot. But why don't we start things off with the first of the unexpected materials, as Nike calls them, on the toe of the sneaker with this really nice mocha-colored nubuck. And again, yes, Nike did actually say that these materials were unexpected. Can't make this stuff up. So the brown nubuck on the toe seems to be a similar shade to that of the Mocha Air Jordan 1s. It also doesn't feel like the best quality nubuck in the world. It feels a little bit So-so. A detail that I kind of like about this brown nubuck panel is the white accent stitching, which I realize isn't part of the brown nubuck panel, but it does accent that color pretty nicely. And then interestingly enough, before you get to the white leather on the toe, you've got this very thin reflective band that actually sort of outlines this brown nubuck. It's not very noticeable, but when you hit this shoe with the flash, or when you hit it with the right light in the studio, you can really see this sort of bright white outline around the brown nubuck, which I don't love, but I also don't hate. The leather on the toe is alright. It's pretty much standard Jordan leather. It's not really tumbled. It's a little stiff, but it gets the job done. As you move up on the shoe, you get to a pretty standard feeling black nylon tongue. However, weaving over top of the tongue, you've got this really interesting half black and half bright orange lace. So this lace treatment is something that we've seen done multiple times before. I think we first saw it on the Union LA Air Jordan 1s back in 2018. The bottom half of the laces were black and the top half was sort of a cream sail color. This time around, they're going for more of an orange color, which ties in really nicely with the Nike logo at the top of the tongue and also with the orange on the box. However, if you're not a fan of that dual tone lace, they do also give you two other lace options. They give you a white lace and a black lace if you decide to switch them out. Now I will say, although I like this dual tone lacing setup, it is a little bit busy on this particular colorway, but it doesn't look bad. The one thing I don't like is the actual texture of these laces. Because these laces were presumably dyed, they had to be done in sort of a different material than standard flat laces. The white and black laces that you get are standard Air Jordan 1 laces. They feel fine. These ones, however, have this sort of like smoother or glossier finish to them, so they're actually a little bit harder to tie, and they become unlaced all the time. In fact, on my Union Jordan 1s, I have to retie those like 3 to 4 times every time I wear them. It's ridiculous. It's something that I never expected to be a problem, and that's something I definitely see happening on this shoe because they seem to have the same exact laces. I guess to avoid that, you could wear these shoes unlaced, and that would prevent you from having to retie them every so often, but if you plan to tie your shoes, maybe switch out the laces. Then moving inside the sneaker, you get to this really interesting sort of quilted sock liner. It's not exactly quilted. It's not the same as the A Ma Maniere Air Jordan 1s where it's got this sort of like really nice sort of satin or velvety feeling sock liner. Instead, you've got your sort of standard feeling black mesh sock liner. However, the sock liner has these stitching details that kind of make it look like it's quilted. It's an interesting touch. It definitely adds a little bit of something to the shoe. I don't know if I like it or I hate it, but either way, you're not really going to see it that often because you're going to be wearing the shoe most of the time. Then rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got a black insole with that same sort of quilted detail on it. And then on the back of the insole, you've got the Nike Air logo printed on the heel in orange. As far as sizing and fit, the Air Jordan 1 Crafted does seem to fit like every other pair of Air Jordan 1s. As you may have noticed, I did have to grab this shoe in a size 8.5 because that was the only size that was available for instant ship on GOAT. However, I do have a couple different 8.5 pairs of Air Jordan 1s, and they all fit exactly like this pair. So I can assume that this pair does fit true to size. With that being said, if you've never tried on a pair of Air Jordan 1s before, I definitely recommend trying on a pair before you buy this one just to make sure you're grabbing the right size for you and you're not wasting $170. Continuing back in the shoe, you've got more of that white, semi-tumbled leather. On top of that white leather, you've got this black, I guess, nubuck or felt feeling Nike swoosh. Just above that, you've got some more nubuck, this time in forest green, that acts as sort of the eye stay of the sneaker. And then interestingly enough, or I guess I should say unexpectedly, the back half of the midfoot, instead of coming in the same white leather material, comes in a reflective material. Now, I don't know exactly how I feel about this because usually on pretty much every other pair of Air Jordan 1s, this panel and this panel are the exact same material and the same color. So they decided to change things up on this shoe for whatever reason and not only make it a different color but also make it a reflective accent. And while I don't feel like it ruins the overall design, I do think it makes the shoe just a little bit too busy. I mean, you've already got so much going on in the upper of the shoe, why add just another panel of extraneous material? There doesn't seem to be a reason for it, but they did it anyway. Just above that and sort of parallel to this reflective arm, you've got more of that brown nubuck. And again, I feel like because these two lines are parallel to each other and they're different materials, it really makes the shoe look a little bit too busy. It really is a lot going on. And then to make the shoe even more busy, instead of having your standard debossed wings logo that comes in like glossy black, you've got this canvas material that's stitched onto the brown nubuck with a black wings logo printed onto that. So this whole back half of the shoe has just so much going on with the orange laces, the reflective, the black nubuck, the white leather, the brown nubuck, the canvas, and some other materials that we haven't even talked about yet. Speaking of other materials, at the top of the ankle, you've got this pretty glossy black leather, and at the bottom of the heel, you've got some more, I'm assuming, nubuck. It doesn't feel exactly like the nubuck on the rest of the shoe, but this material comes in sort of a maroon color, which kind of feels out of nowhere, but I guess tone-wise it does match with the shoe. So even if you just look at the back of this shoe, you've already got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different instances of different materials on just the back part of the shoe. And then if you move around to the side of the shoe, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 12, 13, 14 different colors and materials going on. It's a lot going on in this shoe, and we haven't even talked about the midsole yet, which, to be fair, it's not that crazy, but you add that to the rest of the upper and it's just, you're having a field day. But getting to the midsole, the one sort of simple and clean part of the entire shoe, you've got a pretty standard white, or I guess sort of off-white sail colored midsole, accented by a black rubber outsole. Overall, while I don't hate the Air Jordan 1 Crafted, I don't love it, and that's because there's just so much going on in this shoe. It just feels like they took a bunch of different colors and a couple different materials, mashed them all together, and thought because they were all sort of like darker, more foresty, fall colored tones, it would work. But in my opinion, it doesn't. It's just too much going on. I don't think it's a bad looking shoe, and of course, if you like this shoe or you buy this shoe or even if you wear this shoe, there's nothing wrong with you. That's totally fine. That's your own opinion. But for me, I just feel like this is kind of a miss from Jordan Brand. And recently from Jordan Brand, I feel like they've been pushing out so many Jordan 1 colorways that they're kind of running out of ideas. They don't want to keep re-releasing the classic OG colorways, which I get, but rather than releasing just 17 different Jordan 1s in a year, maybe release 4 solid colorways instead of like 17 different versions that half of them are okay and half of them suck. And it's unfortunate because I feel like if this shoe was just a little bit simpler and a little bit cleaner, or maybe the materials were just a little bit nicer, this shoe would have been a winner. But it's just not there for me. It's a no for me, dog. Is that a 2000s meme? I think it probably is. Whatever, I'm 29, I'm almost 30. I made a Seinfeld reference at the beginning of this video, for God's sakes. I can make a Randy Jackson meme reference. But with that, we pretty much wrap up the entire review for today. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on the Air Jordan 1 Crafted, aka the Handcrafted, and whether this is a shoe that you're planning to pick up when it finally releases on December 18th. So make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.